Evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the commission. I'm Chuck Sheehan. I'm the chairman of the Town of Stonington's Planning and Zoning Commission. Let the record reflect that we call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Just a note before we begin. There was a letter from the Board of Ed in your packet related to waivers that had been granted in the past on school impact evaluation reports. And they've asked us to change our practice on that. So if you would take a look at it, and if the town planner would just respond that we understand and will abide by their wishes. I see we have all the regular members present here this evening. So there's be no alternates appointed. Next item on the agenda is minutes. Minutes for the November 15th, meeting number 1741. What's the commission's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for the November 15th, 2023 meeting number 1741 as written and submitted.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Approved and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Next item is November 21st minutes, meeting number 1742. What's the commission's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, there's one correction I think we need to make for meeting number 1742 from November 21st. Ben, if you had it noted there.
Yes, under public hearings, it lists Ryan's name twice.
Okay.
Once with Gary Belkey's name.
Correct.
Okay, so one change, as noted. Clifton, if you could advise the secretary, recording secretary. And do we want to approve it with that
Yeah, otherwise.
one exception? What's the commission's pleasure?
Yes, to approve, make a motion to approve the minutes as written, submitted, and corrected for that meeting.
So motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The chair abstains. I was absent for the November 21st meeting. Next item is minutes for November 28th.
I was absent for that meeting, so I've not read them, but I'll make a motion to approve them as written and submitted and abstain from voting.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
One abstention. Thank you, Ryan. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to make a comment on any agenda item. We ask that you...
Not
sorry, go ahead.
agenda items.
Oh, non-agenda items, I'm sorry. I ad-libbed there. I thought this was for agenda items. Apologize. You can make a public comment of any sort. So if anyone from the public wishes to make a comment, the mic is yours. Just identify yourself, name and address, and we'll gladly listen to whatever you have to say. No comments this evening? Okay, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, correspondence. I dealt with the correspondence up front. Any other correspondence, Clifton, to come before the board?
Just the one item on the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I just attached the letter received regarding a project over the Stonington overpass on Greenmanville Road. It was just a recommendation from the town engineer to provide that to the commission. It's not a substantial project, so just minor correspondence.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions of Clifton on any of the correspondence or me on the Board of Ed memo? Hearing none, we'll move to staff reports.
Just the zoning enforcement officer's report for November is included.
I'm sorry.
The only report included is the zoning enforcement officer's report, and then other than that, it's the administrative review items.
Anyone have any comments?
No, I do appreciate the zoning enforcement officer's report. It's a handy thing to keep tabs on.
Okay. Any reports from any other members of the commission? Hearing none. Zoning enforcement violations? You have a copy of this report in your package from November 2023. Any questions on this of Clifton? Hearing none, we'll move to administrative review. First item is the application of Janet LLC. Is Attorney Casey here? I see him in the audience.
Green. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Attorney John Casey of Robinson and Cole here at this moment on behalf of Janet LLC. This is just a follow-up. As the commission recalls, you approved a site plan and special permit for a gas station and convenience store at 54 South Broad Street, but there's a separate approval that the Department of Consumer Protection requires under Section 14.321 of the general statutes. And the way the statute is written, this zoning commission can grant that. It's called a certificate of location approval, and it basically tells the department that it's an appropriate place to sell gasoline. Given that you've already granted a special permit, approved the site plan, I think it's just a very simple administrative approval at this point, and I would ask that you approve it administratively and provide some sort of letter that I can pass on to DCP with that requirement.
I think everyone is very familiar with the application from the extensive presentations on all sides.
Yes, they were extensive.
Just historically, this was done in the past by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Recent change in the statute, as I think you mentioned, transferred that to planning and zoning, and it really is sort of a perfunctory thing since a special permit has already been issued on the site. So with that said, what's the commission's pleasure with regard to the application by Janet?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the application as written and submitted. The town staff had no reservations or comments on it, so.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you, Attorney Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Okay, under old business, we have Unicorn Project LLC. Evening, sir.
Good evening, Bill Middleton for Unicorn Project LLC. This is a continuation from the last meeting that was continued because the town engineer's comments had not been received. They have subsequently been received. We've had a meeting with him, addressed the majority of them, and I believe he recommends approval.
Anyone have any questions of the applicant?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Philbrick?
Thank you. All the town engineers, 1 through 9, have been all addressed?
Greg?
So at the time of writing the report, the town engineer has not been able to provide me a follow-up, so I listed them as not fully addressed at the moment, just because of vacations and holidays and whatnot. And so, but he did write in his response to the original set of comments that he would recommend approval pending the stipulation that they are addressed with the town engineer at a later date. So although they're listed as not addressed here, it was his recommendation to add that as a stipulation moving forward.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Great. And the only other comment is I want to commend you on the use of solar on those 2 buildings. I think that's a great step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Might even get it installed someday.
Anyone else have any questions of the applicant? No other questions of the applicant? Okay.
One more, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Philbrook, please, yes.
The new addition is a laundry, and it says guest room. Is that, one place it says guest room, and another place it says manager's apartment.
Well, there's actually two. So one is an existing, what has long been an existing apartment. It was a 3-bedroom. We're shrinking that one to a 1-bedroom and doing 2 additional 1-bedrooms in the rear.
So they're for hotel guests?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? All right. We have to make a decision on this tonight unless an extension is granted. So what's the commission's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to check with the staff that we have 2 votes we need to have, a decision on the waivers and then also a decision on the site plan application.
Now, we used to do these separately, but I understand we can do them combined.
We can do them
And
combined.
grant the waivers and the
You
permission
can,
at the
yep,
same,
you
in
can
the same
approve all
motion.
of them as well as the stipulations all in one bundle.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
I have one question, though.
Sure.
Town of Groton, awaiting comment, what?
Just because of the adjacency, we did have to send this to the town of Groton.
That's all.
Typically, municipalities don't respond.
Yep,
I just
okay.
put awaiting comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for both the waivers that have been requested and the site plan application with the following recommended stipulations. 1, the applicant shall address the outstanding comments to the satisfaction of the town engineer, town planner, and Old Mystic Fire Department. 2, final plans shall be reviewed to the satisfaction of the town engineer. 3, final plans shall be recorded in the town's land evidence records. And 4, prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, the final plan shall be signed by the commission and recorded.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the waivers also, right?
Yes, it is.
You did, okay, thank you. Motion has been made to grant the waivers and the use permission. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. The application is passed. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the second item of old business, Garden Homes Management.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve Delaporta, Regional Manager for Garden Homes.
Thank you, sir.
Ed Quinlan, he was our project manager on the project down at Fair Acres Mobile Home Park, the 10 units that we installed down there, and we're looking for our bond back this evening.
Commission have any questions for the applicant?
Just want to add one thing if I could. We started the project and finished it in 7 months, and it was unbelievably fast for us to do that down there. And we wanted to thank the Building and Zoning Department for their cooperation and their teamwork in getting this project done. And that's pretty much all I have.
Again, I'll ask, is there any questions for the commission? Okay, so the commission has until January 25th of '24 to make a decision on this, if they feel they need more time. Otherwise, you can make a motion this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the bond reduction release application as submitted.
Motion is made to approve the bond reduction. Anyone want to make a second?
I second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Are there any abstentions? Matter is passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, sir. Okay. If the secretary would, seated for the public hearing are all the regular members of the commission. During the public hearing, as you know, any of the alternates can raise any questions. And following on to that, when we go into regular session, only regular members can speak. So if alternates have any questions, feel free to raise them during the public hearing because your options are vaporized in the regular session. So if our esteemed secretary would read the legal notice for the first public hearing.
I don't have one. You think that I would have this memorized? First, apologize for not.
No apologies necessary.
I had to write it down for Ryan last time, so maybe he hasn't.
Can't you just read what's stated in our agenda and forego the state of Connecticut
I think
in this?
say pursuant to the state statute.
But I asked Keith once, and he said, no. And Gail and Keith said it's a perfunctory thing to cover our bases, really. But they always included it.
Are you okay with that? Or could you come down a copy?
I'm fine.
I haven't found a copy yet. I can, if you really want it, I can work and find one.
No, if everyone's fine with it, I'll just, okay. So we're going to open up the public hearing for PZ 2326 SUP, Whalers Inn RE LLC, special use permit application for a revision to a previously approved special use permit. Proposal reconfigures approved layout of hotel and retail space and includes a 399 square foot addition. Properties are located at 9 and 11 Cottrell Street, Mystic, MBL 182-4-3, 182-4-4. Properties are located in the DB5 and RH10 zones.
Thank you, Commissioner Conway. I see we have Attorney Sweeney present. Evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a partner and a land use attorney with the T-Corps law firm of New London. And absolutely, the reading of the hearing is a perfunctory step, and what you read was more than sufficient from a legal standpoint.
Kind of you to waive that formality.
I'm thinking that you may have to do that for Mr. Casey in a few minutes as well, so I'm trying to help him as well. My architect had to run back to his office to grab something for the plans, and he is running a little bit late, so I'm going to start. I understand, I talked with Clifton, the plans for this application should be in your package, so typically I would have a board here to point to, so please bear with me. I'm hoping that sometime during my remarks that board will show up. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. Tonight I'm here on behalf of Whalers Inn RE LLC, who's the owner of the Oddfellows building located at 11 Cottrell Street in Mystic. On behalf of my client, I've submitted a special use permit application for minor modifications to the ongoing and previously approved renovation of that building. Paul Larson should be here in a second, the project architect. I also have Norm Tebow here as well. Norm is the project engineer. I know you have other matters on the agenda tonight, so I'm going to try to be brief because from our perspective, this is a very simple and straightforward modification to an existing special use permit. I'm going to try to highlight the key aspects of the modifications. And Mr. Larson and Mr. Tebow will both be available if you have any specific questions that I can't answer. For the record, I would note that notice of this public hearing has been provided to abutting property owners as required by your regulations. Some of you may recall, I know Ms. Conway was on the commission at the time, and I believe several others of you were as well. My client received special use permit approval from the commission back in June of 2022 to renovate the historic Oddfellows building and to establish a hotel lobby and office and 2 retail spaces on the first floor of the building and a total of 5 family-friendly hotel suites on the upper 3 floors of the building. Then in September of that same year, September of 2022, my client came back and got an administrative modification of the original approval to convert one of the 2 retail spaces on the bottom floor to a hotel conference room. Renovations on the building began in earnest earlier this year, and if you've been by the site recently, you know we've made substantial progress. The structural condition of the historical building was much more compromised than we had first believed. We made the necessary repairs and the strengthening of the building at considerable expense, but we are still looking forward to an opening of the building sometime next year.
That's exciting.
I think it looks great, and I hope you can see the work and the care that we've taken to the building already. However, as we have progressed, we've identified a few minor modifications that we'd like to make to the plans, which we think will make the project better overall. Some of these changes could be handled administratively, but one of them would add an additional hotel suite on the 4th floor. We met with Clifton earlier this year, and he indicated to us that he felt that this should come before the commission for a formal modification. And so that's why we're here tonight. Overall, the changes really fall into 3 buckets. The first is the reconfiguration of the 4th floor layout to add the additional hotel suite. The second is the conversion of the remaining retail space on the 1st floor to move that space into the existing and approved hotel office lobby area and to the conference room area, basically removing retail from the 1st floor. And then 3, the construction of a 399 square foot addition to the 1st floor for enclosed trash and recycling storage. These modifications are exempt from coastal site plan review as minor additions and minor modifications of an existing building. They are totally consistent with your flood hazard regulations, as this does not raise to the level of a substantial improvement. And they are exempt from design review, architectural design review process as well, because the changes to the exterior of the building are so limited, they're less than the 25% facade threshold. So there's really those 3 aspects. So I'll go through them, and if you have the plans, you can see that the plans are floor plans for the 1st floor approved and proposed, the existing 4th floor as approved and then proposed, and then we have some architectural renderings that show the trash and recycling addition off to the left of the building if you're looking at it from Cottrell Street. In terms of the 4th floor, if you look at our approved plans, the 4th floor of the building was to encompass one single suite, which was 1,630 square feet in size, just a massive penthouse suite on the 4th floor of the building. As my client's team has really reviewed that, the size of that suite was excessive. I think Mr. Philbrick actually had suggested this during our hearings. That's a really big suite. And we really deemed it, I think with a little bit more thought, we've agreed that it is excessive, and it's really outside of current market trends. There's really very little demand for a suite that large. So what we proposed would be to bifurcate the 4th floor of the penthouse suite. And if you see that in our proposed 4th floor plan, we would just break that penthouse suite into 2 smaller, separate hotel suites, 674 square feet and 810 square feet in size. And that's generally consistent with the size of the suites on the floors directly below that on the 3rd and 2nd floor. Effectively, what this will do will increase the total number of hotel suites in the building from 5 to 6, adding 1 additional one. But it's not going to change the area of the building. It's all within the same volume and envelope. It's just reconfiguring space in the building itself. There is no exterior changes to the building as a result of this change, except that if you look at our architectural renderings, we are putting just a privacy partition wall on the outdoor 4th floor deck to separate the decks for each unit, the Unit 4A and Unit 4B. But other than that, there's no change to the appearance of the building as approved by this commission. The second modification that's part of our application is modifications to the first floor layout. The original approval, which was modified in September of 2022, provided space for the hotel lobby and office, and then a hotel conference room on the first floor of the building on either side of a central 711 square feet retail space. This is where Rochelle's used to be, the sort of the women's clothing store. Rochelle's departed the property in the spring. And so we've decided to reallocate that space rather than maintaining the retail in the middle of the first floor of the building, simply splitting that space up so approximately half of it goes to the hotel lobby and office area and half to the meeting room space. As with our prior approvals, all of our meeting room space is dedicated for the use of guests of the hotel only. And these changes that we're making interior to the first floor have no change whatsoever to the exterior of the first floor. This is really invisible from the outside of the building. From an on-site parking perspective, the changes we're making on the fourth floor and the first floor collectively actually reduce our parking demand for the building by removing the retail altogether and just adding one additional suite. Our parking demand is 8 parking spaces, 2 for our employees who are on at any shift, and then 6 for the hotel rooms, a total of 8 spaces. As you know, the paved parking lot that's behind the building, which is not changing in any way, has 15 spaces. So we're almost twice what we need from a zoning perspective in terms of parking. And then finally, we are proposing a small addition to the north side of the building. That's shown on the plans and the renderings. We are constructing a building addition on the first floor on the northern side of the building for trash and recycling storage. And what this will allow us to do is eliminate the on-site dumpsters from the site. The trash storage addition will house a compactor that's specifically sized to accommodate trash generation from this building, but we've also upgraded it so that it can actually take the trash from the adjacent Whalers Inn as well. So we'll be able to eliminate the dumpsters at the Whalers Inn as well. All the trash in that block from those hotel uses can go to this compactor room and be stored inside. And we think that this is a really important improvement to the area. As you know, in downtown Mystic, outside dumpsters, even when you have appropriate screening, are an issue. During the heat of summer, there's always concerns about trash falling out of dumpsters. I know that during the initial approvals for this project and other projects in the area, neighbors have complained about dumpster noise at night. Bringing these things in-house, inside a building, I think is really important and improves the overall aesthetics along Cottrell Street, certainly eliminates unpleasant odors during summer months, and we think it will reduce noise as well. There's no mechanicals that are sticking out of this building. There's no exhaust. And we're going to be coordinating with the town for regular pickup of the trash and recycling. That'll be done from Cottrell Street. There are doors on the front of that building that will remain locked and closed. And during pickup, those doors will open. We'll be able to wheel carts out, put them in the dumpster, and then put those carts back in and the doors close. So all the trash in that is going to be nicely handled now. It's not going to be something that's going to detract from the property. To do that, to put the addition on, we will be closing the steep, narrow, and substandard alleyway that currently exists on the north side of the building. We are also going to be merging 9 Cottrell Street, where the old cafe used to be before it was torn down. That'll be merged into 11 Cottrell Street to accommodate this building addition and provide the necessary building setback. Most importantly, I want to note that in your staff report, the fire marshal's office has reviewed the design and the closure of that alleyway. We actually designed it in concert with the Mystic Fire Marshal's office, and they are satisfied that they have suitable and adequate fire access around the entire building in the case of a fire emergency. I just want to point out, if you look at our plans, with the exception of just that building addition for the trash and recycling story, there's no other site work on the property. All the landscaping that's been approved by this commission, all the parking, all the other layout of the site, all remains the same. Collectively, the interior changes to the 4th floor, the 1st floor, and the building addition, from our perspective, are just very minor changes to the overall renovation plan for the property, and we think this leads to a better project. There are no other substantial changes to the operation of the site, I think, that would concern the commission. Consequently, because of the minor nature of the proposal, we have requested site plan waivers of your typical special use permit requirements, and that was part of our application. We did submit this application in September. We did receive our first comments from your town engineer last week. They're fairly minor. He's asked for some notes to be added to the plan, and I think there's 8 or 9 notes, comments. He suggested that he would be comfortable with you stipulating approval of the project on the stipulation that we actually satisfy his comments as may be applicable. And we have no problem with any of his comments. We're happy to sit down with him and work through them. I think a lot of them are just very reasonable notes that we would normally put into the plan. Certainly would have put them in the plan if we had gotten them before last week. I think finally, tonight, I think you have standards for special use permits in your regulations. I would encourage you to review those. I provided some arguments on why we meet those standards in my narrative that was submitted. But myself, Mr. Larson, and Mr. Tebow are all available if you have any specific questions about the proposal tonight. I want to thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Sweeney? Commissioner Philbrick?
Thank you for breaking up that top floor. It seems much more reasonable to make it 2 different suites rather than one large one.
Yeah, I think also, there was a concern that I think you raised that suite as sized would not encourage sort of responsible use, I think, at one point. So I think having them sized in basically the same layout as the units directly below them just makes sense. And again, as I said at the hearings in 2022, what we're trying to do with this project is providing a kind of accommodation that doesn't exist in Mystic right now, where it's big enough that you're not squeezed in a tiny room. You can bring your family to one of these suites and enjoy Mystic, and I think this commission has expressed the desire to try to encourage family-friendly accommodations.
On the first floor, there is no real lobby for hotel guests, per se? There's no check-in desk or anything?
Yeah, so what we have on the plans right now is just sort of an open room, but that room is in fact going to be the lobby. You can see there's a concierge desk. It's sort of on the proposed first floor. If you go in, you'll walk in and there'll be a concierge to the forward and to the right as you approach the ADA toilet in the back.
Are you in the conference room?
No, I'm in the proposed first floor plan. Let me show you. Right here. This is going to be where there'll be a counter,
okay.
and that's where we're going to do check-in there.
Great, thank you. And lastly, I'm very impressed that you're putting a copper roof for the flat roof for the addition. It's very high class, but I'm a little concerned about the overhead doors you have on the street side. To my mind, overhead doors look like overhead doors.
Yeah, so
And it's hard to make them look nice.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have Mr. Larson come up because we wanted to make sure that it was functional, but we really put some time into the design of those doors so it fit into the streetscape. So
I know it's a little bit out of our purview.
but that's certainly my client has extremely particular tastes about the way his buildings look, and I know this was a major issue. I don't know if Paul, if you wanted to talk a little bit about how those doors work and how we design them.
Sure. Paul Larson, architect. Yeah, they're basically overhead doors. They're going to be all custom made to fit this building. They're all true style with stiles and rails, and it's going to have like a beadboard facade to it. So we're kind of trying to blend it into the facade so it doesn't stick out as much. It'll all be painted white. We're going to have the same details of the columns on each side of that. That'll blend in with the rest of the building. You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Conway?
Just a couple of things. Did you say that you're increasing the space for the conference room on the first floor?
Yes, so if you look at if you look at the existing first floor plan in our package, you'll see that the retail space that was Rochelle's was sort of central in the first floor of the building.
Yeah.
But then if you look to the proposed first floor, you'll see that right in the middle of that space, we now have a wall. So the conference room is reconfigured, but it is slightly wider than it was under the proposed. So some of the space from Rochelle's got moved to the conference room that was approved in September of 2022. You'll note, though, that there's also some other changes. We now have some storage in that side, and we have a little bit larger of a bathroom area as well. So it's really just a reconfiguration of that space. The retail comes out, and the hotel office and conference room uses sort of move in to fill in that space.
And then there's a meeting room, meeting space, correct?
Yes, there's a meeting space that's over in the hotel lobby office area.
Yeah, okay. So I remember when, so what would be the capacity of the conference room?
That would
Yeah.
be set by the fire marshal based on its size, but this commission had asked and put in the last special permit that the conference rooms are used for hotel guests only.
Yes.
So typically, my clients' hotel operations host a variety of different type of meetings. A lot of them are sort of business meetings. So the Whalers Inn properties have been attractive for small business to rent and to do like a workshop or like a training. So these, we try to keep the rooms somewhat open and flexible so we can do different seating styles in them. So you might have a presentation in there, or you may have like some breakout tables for some, so it really, you'll see there's no furniture because we allow it to be sort of customizable.
But anyone attending a guest in the conference room would be a guest of the hotel.
That's
have
what the
a
commission
room
placed
in the
as a
hotel.
condition.
Okay.
I think, Ms. Conway, I wasn't there for that meeting, but I think that was your suggestion.
Yes.
And we wanted to honor that going forward.
Okay, so having one additional room in the hotel, right, total one additional?
There's one conference room in this
No,
hotel.
but guest room in the
Yes.
hotel. That would add two parking spaces, correct?
One.
Just one?
Yeah,
And
your
so-
regulations require one parking space per suite.
Okay. I'm just getting at the parking. So I
Sure.
heard you say 8 spaces, you've got 16 in the lot.
15.
15 in the lot. And I noticed you asked for a traffic waiver. And although face value, you would think that this would not affect traffic at all, Cottrell Street is a very sensitive area when it comes to traffic in the Mystic area. There's been a lot of public input to the configuration of that street and whatnot. So in your opinion, none of that, of the changes you're suggesting would impact the traffic or the parking on Cottrell Street?
I don't think there's any basis for a concern on that, particularly because remember what's coming out. And so Rochelle's or that retail space, which generates traffic, it does generate some walk-by traffic, but a lot of people would come to Rochelle's and go around and come down Haley and park. We won't have any of that retail traffic anymore. Now, I don't want to say that that was a lot because it was only a 700 square foot, it was a small shop, but you
Right.
could have 2 or 3 visitors. That won't be here at all anymore. So I think overall, the net effect, even with just one more room upstairs, losing the retail, if you do the retail calculation, the retail had like 3.5 parking spaces that you needed for that space. I think it's a net benefit to the site. It de-emphasizes this as a traffic generator.
Okay, and the same with Haley Street? I mean, we talk about Cottrell
Yeah.
because it's more of the main thoroughfare, but the side street as well, you don't feel there'll be any
Yeah,
change
I
in
think
the
so,
parking or
because-
traffic?
Because I think Haley Street, to get to the parking lot behind the building, you have to come in off of Haley.
Yeah.
So the only people that are going to be using that would be employees of the hotel and guests now.
Okay.
And there'd be 6 rooms, so at max occupancy, you might have 6 cars for those 6 rooms, and they have, on their heaviest shift, they've got 2 workers working. So it would be 8 cars. So we have basically an excess of 7 spaces in the event that somebody has a second car, or, you know, what does happen sometimes in the summer, we do police our lots. People will park in our lots because they want to go eat at a different restaurant. It happens, but we do a pretty good job of policing that now, and we're going to continue doing that.
Okay. And then my final question, and it's just a comment, on your diagram here?
Yeah.
Is this all going to be grass?
It's-
Open grass?
It's going to be grass right next to the building.
Uh-huh.
It's a little bit deceiving because there's a little bit of a slope going up as well.
Yeah.
But yes, right next to the building will be grass, and in fact, one of the comments of your engineer is to make sure that it's called out on the plan as the area of seeding and turf for that
Okay.
area.
And what is the dimension of that? Do you know?
I could look at the site plan and let you know. Let me just grab it.
Because you're basically taking this little extension, the 399-foot extension for the trash, which I think is an excellent idea.
I think it is too.
Is taking away from that alleyway, making it
It's sitting-
narrower, and now that's all going to be grass.
Right, so it's
But-
gonna sit in that alleyway, and right now, to the left of that alleyway is sort of the old area, the foundation ruins and pavement related to John's, where
Yeah.
John's Cafe was.
Yeah.
So we'll turf that area along the edge of it, and then the rest of the area then slopes up to the main parking lot of Whalers Inn. I assume that we may landscape some of that in addition in the future, but the idea is to have that turfed along that. The reason is because the fire department wants to be able to bring a ladder and have firefighters walk along that side of the building. So we
Okay.
have to keep it open and clear.
Okay. It would have been really nice if that extension, the proposed extension, set back from Cottrell Street by a few feet, because it's a very long facade, and it's a very tall building. 4 stories. It's big. The shadows are crazy for that
Yeah.
building, and bringing that back a little bit might have helped
I think
relief
we
a little
looked
bit.
at that. One of the things we wanted, if you look at this front page particularly, there's that arcade style on the front of the building
Yeah.
that you have, and we wanted to make it look like it was part of the building, so we kept it at the same level and continued the arcade. So there was a conscious decision to do that, because when we were at the Architectural Design Review Board with the original plan, that was something that they were adamant, is maintain the integrity of the arcade on the first floor. So we had made the design choice to do that. I think, you know, the quality of the materials, the roof choices that we've picked, we're trying to make it so it looks like it's part of the bigger structure. And really, I think at the end of the day, I think the benefits of basically losing the dumpsters on this block outweigh what minor inconvenience that building might have by stretching out a little bit further. I think it's an overall plus, but I appreciate your comments and I appreciate the input you're giving me.
Thank you.
Any other questions
Well,
from
just a
any other members of the commission?
If I may, to follow up, Lynn, Haley Street is one-way westbound.
Correct.
So if you are on Cottrell Street, you can't take a left and try to sneak in that driveway to
That's
get into the
correct.
parking lot. Meaning it's a big, I like that it's one-way westbound, and that discourages people from trying to get in there.
Ditto.
It just puts traffic over one more street, basically.
It's much easier to manage that, though. It's much easier to manage that for hotel guests than retail guests who you don't know who they are or when they're coming. So a big part of our, when we, at the Whalers Inn company's hotel accommodations, when we book people, we have very specific instructions about how to get to a parking space and where you can park.
Yeah.
Any
It
other
is-
questions from the
yeah.
commission?
It's common for a family hotel to have a conference room like that, is it?
Yeah, so these small hotels, what we call boutique hotels, are really, really popular in corporate settings particularly. People don't want to go to the giant Marriott. They want to go to something that has a little bit of character, particularly historic character. So the Whalers Inn has become extremely popular for that. This is a smaller standalone version. So we get a lot of interest in being able to do that kind of a small meeting room area. I mean, that space is only, we're not talking about a very large space there. It's 30 by 22, to give you an idea. So this is, if you go up to the building, I know it has some verticality, but its footprint is very small. It's an older historic building, so these are very small spaces in reality, but we get a lot of use out of them, and it makes, it helps us attract those types of clientele to have that extra meeting room space.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions from the commission? Any staff report? Clifton?
No additional comment.
Okay, so we'll open up the,
Thank you.
anything else, Attorney Sweeney?
No, I just reserve the right to rebut if there's any public
We'll
comment.
explain how the rebuttal process works.
Thank you very much,
Before we
Mr.
start the
Chairman.
public hearing. Has everybody had an opportunity to sign up that wishes to speak? If not, if you just see Clifton off to the side there to get your name on the list. There's no one signed up to speak. Does anyone wish to comment who has not signed up? Seeing no one, what's the commission's pleasure on the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Conway. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Any abstentions? Motion passes. You have some time on this application. You do not have to make a decision this evening. Of course, you can if you're comfortable. What is the commission's pleasure on that?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the application for the waivers that were requested and also for the special use permit application with the following stipulations. 1, the applicant shall address the town engineer's comments to the satisfaction of the town engineer. 2, final site plans shall be reviewed to the satisfaction of the town engineer. And 3, prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, the final plan shall be signed by the commission and recorded in the land records.
There's a motion to approve the waivers and the special permit with the stipulations that were mentioned. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Belke. Any discussion on the motion?
So why would you think we would need a shadow plan?
For the small storage unit, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah. Well, actually, did we give a waiver for the entire building?
I'd have to go back and check.
Did we get a shadow plan
Not
for
sure
the
there's much
entire
of a shadow
building?
Beyond what a fence,
Yeah, for
what a
the-
fence would cast for the,
Yeah, for
the
the other
dumpster
one.
enclosure,
But did we
but,
get a shadow plan for the entire building?
I'd have to look back at the old approval. But this would just be the shadow plan with the addition.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
any other comments or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Any abstentions? Thank you, Attorney Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission.
So I guess we have the same situation with the next public hearing, if this applicant is willing as the last, we'll simply read the abbreviated public hearing notice. Are you okay with that, Attorney Casey?
Yes, that's fine for the applicant.
It would be
Thank you.
merciful of you to agree.
We want to keep things moving.
So we'd like to open up PZ 2327ZC RCP Waterford to LLC and Readco Stonington. Zoning map amendment application for a neighborhood design district zone. Proposal consists of 124 multifamily residential apartments, 10,000 square feet of commercial space, and 30,000 square feet of commercial recreation space. Properties are located at 85 Voluntown Road and 455 Liberty Street, Pawcatuck, MBL 18136 and 18133A. Properties are located in the HI 60 zone.
Evening, Attorney Casey. Again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is John Casey. I'm a partner with the law firm of Robinson & Cole, and we represent the applicants RCP Waterford 2 and Readco Stonington 3. Tonight, we're here with a transformative project for a vacant movie theater property you're probably all familiar with in Pawcatuck on Route 2. This is a NDD neighborhood development district application, which is a two-step process. We're here tonight with the master plan, and if we're approved, we'll be back with the specific site plan. I just want to introduce first our development team. With me here tonight, back in the third row is Michael Leach from the applicant, RCP and Readco. At the table here is Jeremy Browning from Trio Properties. Jeff Fitzgerald is right behind me, our engineer. You'll be hearing from him. Ethan Shikoski is our traffic engineer, who will speak to you about traffic. And then Orazio Raz Cifolelli, back in there, is our architect, and he'll be speaking to you regarding the architecture. Donald Poland from Goldman and York did a municipal impact analysis. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it, but his report is in the record. I'll speak to it. It really speaks for itself. And also with us is a partner, to a certain extent, on this, Maureen Fitzgerald from the Ocean Community YMCA. For the record, the mail receipts and return receipts have been previously submitted to the record, so our notice is appropriate. So I just want to set the stage and then turn it over to my teammates here to actually go through the substance, because this is a little different than your standard application. We are doing a neighborhood development district proposal, which, as Clifton noted in his report, it's basically a zone change. We're asking to change this property to an NDD zone. It'd be the second NDD zone in the town. And as your regulations say, the NDD is intended to encourage the reclamation of underutilized commercial parcels, permit new construction, renovation, or adaptive reuse of sites, promote diversified housing opportunities, which you'll hear about, and including but not limited to mixed-use development. This will be a mixed-use development. We're not really in a historic area, but that is one of the proposals. But it is sensitive to environmental concerns and resources in the area. And the zone is intended to allow for the establishment, continuation, or expansion of uses and activities in a way that will maintain and enhance compatibility with surrounding neighborhoods. And we'll talk a little bit about the surrounding neighborhoods a little later. But we feel in general this site is really well suited to an NDD to promote, as it says, diversified housing and really create new mixed-use opportunities in the town. Again, so just to set the stage a little bit more, this district is established by what we're doing tonight, proposing a master plan. You have to look at it, and the plan is provided to you with sufficient information to determine whether the proposal conforms to section 10.31 of the regulations and the plan of conservation and development. We're not at the site plan stage yet, so we don't have a lot of details, although as I told the ADRB and we told the police commissioners, you can only get so far. You have to do certain level of detail. So we will have some details in there for you to look at, because part of what you will decide tonight, if you agree with our master plan, is there's very specific things about density, setbacks, things like that are all sort of proposed in our master plan. This property is eligible, obviously, for NDD. We wouldn't be here. The property itself is currently in the HI 60 zone. It's greater than 150,000 square feet in size. Those are two of the requirements. It's connected to public water and sewer. That's another major element that you need to consider. There's a whole laundry list in your regulations about what needed to be provided. I won't go through those here. I mean, just in general, boundary survey, site plan, a plan indicating what's to remain, existing uses, existing structures, what's proposed to stay, what's proposed to go, what's proposed to be new. That's all in our application. Narrative reports, preliminary traffic report, all those things have been provided. Clifton in his report didn't suggest that we had missed anything. I think we have provided you with a great deal of information to allow you to make this decision. And as I said, our experts will be going through the plan to explain how we meet the requirements. That being said, I think at this point I will turn it over to Jeff to start the presentation, and I'll just sort of give you a little preview. So as I said, Jeff will go through the site plan, the overall plan of development. Ethan will go through the preliminary traffic and the parking. Roz will go through the architecture. And then the whole team is here to answer any questions. I think Maureen is here to talk a little bit about the very exciting amenity and the potential partnership and reuse of the movie theater. And then I'll wrap it up at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, John. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Jeff Fitzgerald. I'm a professional engineer and certified planner with Bowler. We're located at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford. So, like John said, everybody's familiar with the site. It's on the east side of Route 2, Liberty Street. The McDonald's is shown in the lower left-hand corner at the signalized intersection with Route 2. And to reiterate what John said, this is really, in my opinion, a perfect place for the application of this neighborhood design district. It's currently an underperforming retail center that had a multiplex theater, and with that came tons of parking, and now that's not a viable business. And by applying the NDD here, we're able to have some mixed use and residential and take advantage of a really great site, really great infrastructure that's already in place and has been functioning well for 20 plus years. So I'll just, again, to orient you, the big box on the top is the existing Stop and Shop and medical office, and that's Route 49, Voluntown Road on the right-hand side, and Liberty on the bottom. Next slide. So this is the existing conditions. On the right-hand side, you see the shadow of the old multiplex theater. A lot of parking. There's parking on the northeast, right on the top of the page, against the driveway into Stop and Shop, as well as this large, really large parking lot on the west side. And then the existing Liberty Bank, Berkshire Bank right there, and then an empty parcel right there, and then on the far left is the McDonald's. Important to point out in this page is the stormwater, underground stormwater in those two locations. And there's a few other areas of underground stormwater spread throughout the site that we're maintaining, but we're also maintaining those. And that's a really important part of this application, is that the site takes advantage of really well-draining soils and has effectively recharged all their stormwater, the majority of it going into the ground through these recharge chambers with high-level overflows that go to the to the pond to the north at 2 locations. We're able to maintain those systems and those outlets exactly in that manner. So we'll go to the next page in the proposed configuration. So you can see there's a large green area and right there that where the one large system is, and that's being maintained. And then on the right exactly there's a large parking area where the other system is. And we really, when we master planned this site, had creating a great place in mind, but also how do we do that and be able to take advantage of the infrastructure that's there. I'm going to point out, we'll go to the next slide here. Some of the infrastructure that we dealt with included running north-south on this page here from Stop and Shop, a sewer easement that we're actually relocating a bit around one building. The main easement will remain, but we're just able to shift that. There's also little introduction of some rerouting of existing stormwater pipe, but in general, the majority of the infrastructure is able to be easily maintained. This plan, just shows that stormwater infrastructure. So we'll go to the next page. Again, the existing utilities, electrical, we're able to use the feed coming in, but then redistribute to the building through a new series of transformers and primary and secondary routes. We'll go to the next slide. Yeah, this shows the electrical routing to some transformers and the rerouting of the sewer and water services that come in off of Liberty. And so here's a final draft of the plan. Just in summary, the existing theater becomes a pickleball and community center with indoor pickleball courts as well as outdoor pickleball courts. And then a community center for residents with a pool and other features, typical of a well-amenitized residential community. We're adding 124 apartment units broken out in studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms. And then in front a mixed-use building that will house the relocation of the bank with the drive-through, as well as additional retail space in that has good front field parking off of Liberty Street and side field parking adjacent to the McDonald's. And really a network of kind of villagey streets that connect this all together. Again, this project, by virtue of this redevelopment, we're increasing the landscape area and decreasing the impervious area. It's a total reduction in impervious coverage of 4% from existing to proposed. And because of that, we don't have to increase any stormwater detention. We're just able to have more soak into the ground via landscaping and less pavement. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Ethan Chikoski, our traffic engineer. We did a quick traffic evaluation to make sure that these uses would not have any impact to the network. With the amount of traffic that was anticipated and seen when that theater first opened, the roadway infrastructure is pretty robust out here, so I'll let Ethan talk.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll reserve all questions until the end.
Yep. Go ahead, Ethan.
How you doing? Ethan Chikoski. I'm with Atlantic Traffic and Design. We're located at 275 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York.
Evening.
I'm sorry?
Good evening.
Good evening. So as Jeff mentioned, and if you could pull the site plan back up, yep, perfect. There is a robust roadway network already established here. As you can see, the primary access will be off of Liberty Street. There's signalized intersections both on Liberty Street and on the adjacent roadway. There's a signalized intersection with the McDonald's, and then there's also one with the Stop and Shop on the other side. And then that primary access road really provides your main access. Currently, there's also a northbound right-in off of Liberty Street. We're going to maintain that entrance as well as add an additional right-in, but the right turn ingress doesn't add any additional conflict points on the roadway, just additional ingress. All egress would be from the signalized intersections. So we took a look at the trip generation for the proposed use and compared that to the existing use, with the uses that are currently operating on the site, and then, should the movie theater be, modernized and reopened, and what traffic that would produce. We found the proposed uses, there would be less traffic during a weekday PM peak period and Saturday midday peak period. There would be a small increase in the weekday morning peak period. So we also took a look at the level of service that the two signalized intersections are currently operating at, and the delay that they currently see. Based on our observations, they're currently operating at acceptable levels of service, and they don't have high delays, and they should have additional capacity to accommodate an addition of traffic during that AM peak hour. We also took a quick look at the crashes in the area on those two adjacent roads, and we found that about 16% of the crashes occurred during that AM peak hour, during the morning hours, as opposed to the rest of the hours. So, we like to see that there's less crashes during that time where we may see an increase in traffic. So I thought that was positive as well. So, as we continue with going on to site plan, we'll also have to go to the State Office of Traffic Administration, OSTA. We'll have to get an update to the certificate here. So we're going to go really in depth with the state as we go along and provide additional analysis. But in terms of parking on the site, we also took a look at the parking demand, the proposed uses, and with the total parking supply that we're providing, there's more than sufficient parking that would be provided on site for the proposed uses as well. I believe we're going to be within town code. Yep. So, Jeff might be able to get more specific on what our zoning is, but I know we're overparked for what.
Yeah. Let me talk. I'll talk about that.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Meant to go over this, yeah. So currently, we're proposing with the 124 units, we did analysis with the proposed community center and pickleball and the retail, and we determined that there's 393 parking spaces would be required. In the configuration that we have on the site, we're proposing 427 spaces. So that includes enough for visitors and ancillary additional parking related to the retail. So happy to bring it up. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Browning with Trio Properties. I'm a development partner on this project with Readco. Happy to be here in front of everybody to present it. I'm going to talk a little bit, kind of veer away from some of the details of the civil engineering and bridge over to the architect, but talk in concept about really the vision for the project. So, Jeff, can you go up to one of the colored slides? So obviously the anchor for this project and the impetus for it is the movie theater. We feel we have a great partner here with the Y to bring in a complementary use to their existing community centers, and also obviously focus on and take advantage of very high demand for pickleball, not only here, of course, but nationwide. And then complementary to that, when we think about a traditional mixed use or an authentic mixed use development, we're carving out a piece of that same existing structure to provide about 4,400 square feet of amenity space to our residents, 124 homes here in the community, with a pool that you can see, some other outdoor recreational amenities. And as I think Jeff alluded to, we're going to have a mix of studios, one bedrooms with dens, 2 bedrooms, different size units, as well as a handful of 3-bedroom units, which we're finding in many communities that we develop and manage around the state are in very high demand. So, we're excited about the project. We think it's a great way to recapture, an existing structure and kind of energize and revitalize the sort of vacant parking lots right now. If you want to jump down to the signage, I'll just touch on that quickly. Sure, yeah, we're also, our company basically does development consulting and is very multifamily focused. We are also the manager for Harbor Heights over on Perkins Farm. So, from that experience and the, significant demand that we saw there, and as I'm sure most of the commission members know, David is now moving into a second phase and we're seeing equal need for those units. We feel that this is will be a similarly successful project filling a real void of this type of housing in Pawcatuck and in southeastern Connecticut in general. So just a snapshot of signage, obviously a pre-existing development with some significant and attractive and successful signage. We anticipate for the apartment community to just leverage those fieldstone columns and post and rail fence details at both entrances, highlight them with a marquee sign that would identify the residential community within. The YMCA Pickleball Center would be identified on the large marquee, similar to how Stop and Shop or Regal Cinemas is presented in these examples. And if you want to jump down, thanks. So just to give everybody a peek inside, this is a very conceptual plan. We're working with the Y and their team to fine tune this along with our structural engineers. But we anticipate having approximately 7 pickleball courts within the structure, a large fitness center / wellness area, stretching, yoga, gym equipment, etc. That would be down at the bottom there. That today, just for orientation purposes, that's the main entrance into the theater. It becomes a side glass facade, basically, of this facility, so that you'll have natural light flowing into that area. The main entrance for the pickleball facility will be to the east, so facing Stop and Shop, primarily accessed off Voluntown Road. And again, we think the site plan does a great job of kind of keeping commercial uses separate from the residential uses. So the main entrance to the Y and the Stop and Shop, obviously off the Voluntown access point, and then McDonald's and the 10,000 square feet of proposed retail in our one mixed-use building are both concentrated on that northern end of the property. So the YMCA will have its traditional administrative offices and potentially daycare facilities and that sort of thing. And one unique feature I just want to mention is the existing theater has the projection rooms, if you will, up above in what becomes a mezzanine level that runs straight down in between the different theaters. We're going to repurpose and recapture that entire level for an overlook space and sort of viewing pavilion, if you will, for these courts. And then to the top of page here, the 2 orange courts and the 3 green courts to the right, actually all 4 green courts, excuse me, will have roll-up doors that'll open to the outside, and that's the southern edge of our property where we anticipate having the outdoor pickleball court. So we'll really be able to have some interesting, tournaments, community events, leagues, camps, training facility, training sort of activities that will really bring this facility to life, and we're very excited about that. So with that, I will, actually, let me speak to the outside. So there's the garage doors on the bottom. That's the northern edge. We're still kind of working through the details of the existing main theater entrance. We'll probably tone that down a little bit. And then on the top of page, you see the eastern facade, which is facing the Stop and Shop, and that's the main entrance into the facility as it's currently anticipated. And with that, I will turn it over to Roz to talk a little bit more about the actual apartment buildings.
Hi. My name is Orazio Cifalelli. Everyone calls me Roz. I'm an architect licensed in 9 states. I belong with, I'm an architect with Allies Architecture, Inc. And we were directed to design really 2 building types here. A residential 3-story building and a mixed-use building with retail space, office space at grade with 2 levels of residential apartments on above. We designed this towards a more traditional style. Along with that, in between the 2 buildings. So to the right, we have our residential building there. And then to the left, we have our mixed-use building. And then in between, you can kind of see through between those 2. We were also directed to design some freestanding independent garage structures. So we did that, and then, of course, further back, you'll see the amenity building in that photograph. Okay? So this is the front elevation of the residential building. It's a flat-roofed building hidden behind a pitched roof with 3-dimensional shingles. This is basically what we could do here is we have our equipment up on the roof, and you won't be able to see any of it. I'm sorry. There are some accents to the entrances where we're using some standing seam roof. The main entrance in the center there, and then off to the 2 sides where we have our stairwells. So we essentially have 3 entrances into this building. The choice of materials we're looking at are a shaker-style vinyl siding. So we're looking at CertainTeed makes a particular series called Cedar Impressions, and we're using a straight cut. We do like this material because of its the thickness of the material, the gauge of the vinyl. This is a real upgrade to some of the vinyls you'll see out there. We also have some horizontal siding. The horizontal siding will stay with the CertainTeed manufacturer, perhaps a Main Street or Monterey series where we have a heavier gauge vinyl. We're also using some brick veneer. We also have some PVC panels and PVC trims. We have decorative columns. They're going to be located at the building entrances. We'll also have them on the decks above and also on the patios at grade. The building will have vinyl windows and vinyl railings. 3-dimensional asphalt shingles on the roof above. The color palette we were looking to do was something more of a light gray for the shaker style siding, and we were looking to do something more in the medium to deeper tones for the horizontal vinyl siding. We also are looking at, as I said, a charcoal gray perhaps, or dark slate color to the roof shingles, and we'll stay with a red, in the red family for the brick. Now, in an effort to scale down these buildings, we like to manipulate the elevation. So what we're doing is we're putting a lot of bumps and jogs along the facade of the buildings. This gives us shadow, it gives us a little more character, but more importantly, it reduces the perceived length of the building. We play with the materials. We'll bring them up and down the facades, and this will happen all the way around all four sides of each of the buildings. And those horizontal bands will assist us in the perceived height of the building. So we're bringing the materials up and down, we're manipulating the color, and adding horizontal bands. On the roof, we have some perpendicular gables running into the main roof, along with some dormers, and that'll help us reduce the perceived length of the main building roof of the roof of the buildings. Okay. So here's our mixed-use building. Once again, we're doing the same thing. We're manipulating the materials. We're bringing in the bumps and jogs. We are using the same type of materials because we want these all to work together. However, on the mixed-use building, we're going to add some fabric-type awnings at grade because as far as the office retail space at grade, we're going to have multiple entrances in, okay? If we move on to the building plans. Oh, and one other thing, with regards to both buildings, the residential building, it measures from grade to mean of the highest point of the roof. For the residential buildings, about 37 feet. And with the mixed-use building, our building height from grade to the mean of the roof at its highest point would be 40 feet. And the theater is 37 feet, correct. Okay, let's go to the plan. There you go. Our first, this is our first floor for our residential building. We have 8 apartment units with 11 private parking garages. The 2 garages, or 2 end units, will have direct entrance into their own parking garage. However, the other 9 units that run across in the middle, they could be rented by just about any of the apartment units within the building. There's also some storage that runs along the corridor that you can access from there as well. You can access the garages and go right into your corridor. This is it has 2 stairs with a connecting corridor, so, and the entry lobby in the center. This is the second floor. We have 14 units per floor, 2 floors. Again, the 2 stair towers with the connecting corridor. And we basically have, I believe it was just said before, that we have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. They vary in size, and we'll get into those, I guess, in a little bit here. All right. Here's our mixed-use building. First floor, we have 10,000 square feet of leasable space. We have 2 stair towers, an elevator. The reason why we have an elevator in this building by code, the state of Connecticut requires that the lowest level of residential units have to have a handicap access. Second floor, we have 8 units per floor, second and third floor. Here we go again, where we have the stair towers, the connecting corridor, and the elevators. All right. Let's go back to, I'm sorry? Yeah, on the garages, these are the 4 garages. They're similar, all 4. They are an 8-bay, so they're individual garages, 8-bay, horizontal siding, slope or pitched roofs with a 3-dimensional architectural shingle, perhaps a small cupola in the center, and we also are playing with a little bit of the gables on the sides just to reduce its length. This particular building will be from mean of roof to grade at 13 feet. I think that pretty much covers the garages. I think we covered all of the, yeah. Right, so.
Yes, I mean, landscaping-wise, this is fairly conceptual at this master plan stage, but obviously we'll be enhancing the landscaping along Route 2 I would say enhancing it along the Voluntown Road entrance as well, although it's a fairly commercial style entrance. And then obviously one of the things we really love about this concept and plan is we're bringing a lot of green space into the community that doesn't exist today. There'll be some great opportunities within the apartment buildings in that area for us to do some plantings, envision potentially a little playscape or a dog park or some type of amenity that the residents can use, and then just kind of soften the overall feel, certainly from what's there today.
Thank you.
Again, John Casey for the record. So I just want to finish up on the review and just touch on some of the remaining submissions that we made. So as part of this, we had to submit impact statements, and we provided a municipal fiscal impact statement, rather comprehensive, actually quite eye-opening when I read it. Overall, there's a net benefit to the town in terms of tax revenue, not even to mention the one-time development fees of over $800,000, as well as job creation and future discretionary and consumer spending in town. The determination in that report was that at most there would maybe be 12 or 22 new enrollees in the public schools, which would have a negligible effect on the schools or the school budget, especially in consideration of the additional revenue. So we feel that we've met our standard, we've met our requirement to provide that municipal impact and to show that this will not have a negative impact on the town, but rather a positive one. Other impact statements include public safety and traffic, public works, cultural and aesthetic and heritage reports, and natural resources. So we provided our traffic report. You heard from Ethan, our public works. You heard this is connected to town sewer and water, and I believe there's a comment in the report that there's sufficient capacity for the development. As I said earlier, it's not really a historic area. There's not really historic buildings, although the theater does have a unique facade, but I don't know that anyone's going to be too concerned about losing it. So we don't feel that that's a big issue here. And then natural resources, as it was noted, this is a developed site, recently developed in the big scheme of things in the 90s. So this is in the groundwater protection overlay zone. When it was approved and when it was built and approved in accordance with those requirements. So as Jeff already said, there's a significant stormwater management program and system that already exists on the site. Michael has told me that they have 20 plus years of logs of maintaining that system, which we could provide, but it's been well maintained. It's run as it's supposed to run. There's never been an issue of any impacts. There are wetlands, the picture's gone, to the north, but we're not proposing anything in the wetlands or in the upland review area. So the impact on natural resources is negligible. I always like to talk about the town comments. Here, it's pretty easy. There was lots of comments, but nothing really we feel that needs to be addressed at this point. As we said, we're in the master plan stages. I did note the report says you were awaiting comments from the police commission, but we saw them on Thursday. I don't know if they've been submitted yet, but we had a favorable response from the police commission last Thursday. We had a favorable response from the Architectural Design Review Board. They actually had quite a discussion with Roz, and we're very happy with his design to break up the massing and also the choice of materials. We feel the rest of the comments are positive, as well as the town planner's comments. And so just to summarize, I mean, here really it's the compliance with the NDD approval standards. And I will note, I probably should have said this earlier, you recently amended your regulations. And so this is under the old regulations, but the substance of those regulations did not change. The numbers changed, but not the substance. So I think technically we're under section 7.21, but in the new regs, it's 10.33, but they're all the same. I don't even want to say them because it starts to get confusing. I have them all written down. But I just wanted to note that there's really been no substantive change to these regulations. So this, and the master plan will be under the old regulations. The site plan, if we're approved, will be under the new regulations. So your considerations for approval in section 721.2 or 10.33, however you want to look at it. The first is that the proposed uses and layout are in conformity with and in furtherance of the goals and objectives contained in the Plan of Conservation and Development. We feel it conforms with this. Section 9.1 states that about 74% of the town's housing stock is single family, and that the town should encourage the diversification of housing stock by concerning more multifamily housing and high quality rentals. This fits that goal directly. Also in section 14.41 of the POCD, encourages the reuse of existing buildings. This would reuse the theater, which, as we noted, is just not a viable business anymore. You might think you want to give it time, but I actually think this is what you want when it comes to property owners. When you see something's just not working out, rather than just let it sit there and, you know, try to have another go at something similar or something, rather than that, sort of do what Michael did and sort of look at the big picture and see like how we can move this forward now instead of waiting for people to want to go to the movies again. So as I said, this is transformative and it's a great reuse of that building. And we still haven't let Maureen talk. I'll let her speak when I'm done. Also in the town planner's report, he noted a couple other policies that this complies with. 8.11, to seek a mix of residential, retail, and service uses. 8.21, to strive to attract a mix of businesses to support both tourist and local needs within the villages. 8.32, encourage investment in commercial properties. This is a huge investment. As I said, 9.11, diversification of housing stock. So we really feel it does meet the Plan of Conservation and Development. The second consideration is harmony and compatibility with surrounding residential neighborhoods, land uses, and village cores. So can we get that back up? I just want to, just a big one. Yeah, so just the site is, it's in our report, but just so you know, it's surrounded by properties that are zoned HI 60 or convenience shopping 5 across the street. There's no residentially zoned properties adjoining the site. The closest residential zoning district is 300 feet to the west beyond the CS5 district across Liberty Street. There are a few houses in that CS5 zone, and there's an abandoned house to the south in the HI1 district. But no house is closer than 150 feet from the property. There's a residential neighborhood southeast of the subject property, but it's a substantial distance away. We feel that with buffering, landscaping, just the fact of these roads alone, which are large arterial roads, you know, they provide a buffer to the residential uses. Also, this site is actually the only site that actually has sidewalks along Liberty Street, and those will be incorporated. You know, they're already there, but they will be, I think, enhanced by this development. There'll be more need to walk. There'll be more people there to walk places. In terms of impact on traffic and traffic impacting the residential neighborhoods, there's obviously no access to the property through a residential street. All the access is existing except for that one new right-hand only turn. And that is just to provide a way in for the tenants of that proposed building. So they, sort of takes a little pressure off the main road through the development. Those two turns, as I said, and then the last consideration is furtherance goals, standards, and policies of the Connecticut Coastal Area Management Act, and that is not applicable. So, based on, I think, what was a fairly comprehensive proposal, at this point, we feel that we've satisfied our requirement to present you with the information you need to approve the master plan for NDD at this site. And obviously, we look forward to any questions, hearing from the public. Obviously, we'd like the opportunity to have a sort of last word if there's any comments or questions or concerns. But with that, we will wrap it up and let other people speak.
Thank you, Attorney Casey.
Okay.
I have a few questions that I'll kick it off with.
Okay.
And we'll check with the commissioners. I'm sure they have some questions as well. With respect to the groundwater protection overlay district.
Yes.
There's certainly an elevated level of concern since this system was originally built. Clean Water Act standards have changed, and there's much greater awareness of groundwater hydrology. The science has advanced in terms of modeling stormwater. A great deal has changed. So I guess the first question is, was the stormwater remodeled as a part of this examination, or did you just take a look at the old study and say that it was okay?
I'll let Jeff Fitzgerald respond to that one.
Thanks, John. We did not remodel the entire system. What we did do was evaluate all the new sub-watersheds created by the new design and where they were going. We modeled that into the existing system. We have details of the existing system. It's a fairly modern system. We still use the same chambers, the same infrastructure, the same, this has Vortechnics, swirl concentrators still. This was a very sophisticated system when it was done 20 years ago. Those things are still in business. What we do a lot more of these days is more low-impact development techniques, LID techniques, where you try and use a lot of the landscaping to put roof drains into rain gardens and things like that. Try and maximize the infiltration that you get naturally at the point of discharge of rainfall. So there's a lot of opportunity for that. Those final details can be enhanced to include more of that.
Any considerations for bioremediation anywhere on the site?
Bioswales and everything like that. No, because the brand new Connecticut DEP stormwater manual, the draft has been released, and they've now included infiltration practices as equivalent to biofiltration, bioswales, and things like that as far as nutrient removal. So
you are looking at those options?
Yeah, but we're very comfortable with the infiltration as a great filtering as far as pollutant removal, as far as not increasing temperature to receiving waters, minimizing point source discharges, and really putting stormwater back into the ground where it would have fallen before this site was developed.
Have you examined any of the stormwater quality reports that have been filled out under the existing stormwater permit?
No, I haven't seen any quality reports at all, and I don't think I'm not aware of any.
You don't think there's a general permit for this system?
Back,
Would certainly meet the general permit requirements of deep, right?
Absolutely have a permit. We have monthly and weekly logs, and we do biannual testing.
Can you come forward? and
Yeah,
just-
say that on the record.
Mike Leach, Readco. We are a diversified real estate services company, and we provide property management at this site. We also installed the original system in front of this committee 20 years ago, and at that time, the vortex units and the stormwater catch basins, or not the basins, but the recharge system was state-of-the-art. And we were very sensitive then to the concerns of the town. You know, I don't know if anybody was here back then, but we tried to work with Stop and Shop to get a gas station facility here too, and that didn't stand a chance, right? So part of our approval was ongoing management, and we own the management company that oversees that facility at the site. And so we have we have our facilities people doing weekly and monthly logs and inspections on the facility.
How about water quality testing? That's
I will-
required
I will-
under the
I will-
general
I will-
permit.
I will verify it, that it gets done, but I can't imagine if it's a DEP or DEEP certified system that we're not doing it.
Well, I don't know if it's DEP certified or it's not, but DEEP has general stormwater permit requirements. And
Right.
this would certainly fall into the category of requiring a general permit.
We're submitting the logs, so I would imagine.
A discharge permit.
Right. We'll verify
the
it.
I believe it was permitted under a general permit 20
Yeah, but
years.
that
for
requires
discharge of
testing.
stormwater, and there was no sampling required at that time when this was developed.
Okay, but those standards have evolved, and there's no update of the permit or anything of that type.
It's a construction general permit, and no, those aren't, you're not required to update that.
Okay. So the water quality aspects of it are important to us because this is a groundwater overlay protection zone.
Sure.
And what information you have, what information you can generate would be important to this application.
Yep.
History of any spills out there?
None.
There's never been a reported spill to deep of any sort?
Nope.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not up there anymore, but I think you're aware that our neighbor is Aquarion, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
And
so my-
we discharge into the same pond.
The issue, because it is in, I think you described it as the percolation is excessive, correct?
It's high-quality soils. It's not hard pan and stuff. You have
So
good-
that's a blessing from a stormwater standpoint. From a groundwater surcharge standpoint, if there's quality issues, it's not a blessing. Even though some infiltration, the infiltration causes some filtration, if there were a spill, if there's salt in the water, you know, and I'm sure you follow best management practices out there, but there clearly are constituents in that water in the groundwater protection overlay district.
No, that's exactly true. And to combat that, you know, we evaluated the system. The existing infrastructure out there is deep some catch basins. Like Mike said, there's vortechnic, swirl concentrated grit separators prior to going into the
All good
infiltration
for
systems.
suspended
All
solids,
those-
Jeff.
yeah.
Doesn't do anything for water chemistry.
Right. Again, what we're proposing, though, is residential in place of parking, and as part of that project, there's two elements. We have parking in garages underneath the multifamily buildings, as well as each building has an exterior covered parking garage. So we're really minimizing the amount of surface parking that's exposed to stormwater with this design. There is some, and again, as part of the infrastructure that we're putting in to handle our parking lots, it'll all be going through those same type of chambers, and we can look at adding. I have no problem trying to add, and I think we'll have no issue doing this, adding some LID stormwater systems, swales along at the edges of parking.
See, I would be
lots, using that
interested,
for
I would be
conveyance.
very interested in that as a part of this submission.
Sure.
To get comfortable that we're doing what we can to protect the underlying aquifer.
Well,
And I don't think that we've covered that in sufficient detail in the submission yet. Some of it, the more finite aspects of it, are probably reserved for the design of the projects and the individual site plans. But I think we've got to build a framework of aquifer protection into the project so that as we build the individual elements, we can, put in place what we've decided upon in the planning phase. So I don't think we can get to a design, but I think we can get to some overarching principles where we're protecting the underlying aquifer zone.
Yeah.
And I think that should be part of this submittal.
We would have no problem incorporating bio treatment and LID stormwater management techniques into this plan and into the site plan.
I'd also like to look into whether or not the general permit requirements would apply moving forward, and whether the water quality standard and testing associated with those general permits would be in place for the life of this project.
Now, I'm not an expert in DEP permits. I've done a lot of them, but I believe to my understanding, that, 2 years ago, we were, as part of a stormwater general permit for large sites, we were doing sampling. In the past year, I believe the new general permit does not require sampling anymore, but we will have to conform to the latest version of the general permit.
If I stand corrected in that area, I do.
Yeah.
I know the old standards did.
Yeah.
And if they're superseded, I cede to that.
Yeah.
But, the planning that's necessary for bioremediation to the extent that we can is, I think, a part of this application. The individual, the detailed design will be a part of subsequent site plan applications. But the planning associated with it should be part of this. So that's my questions on aquifer protection. I do have a sort of a point. I'm not an architect, but I think the buildings would benefit from corner boards, enhanced window moldings, and enhanced base moldings. I heard a lot of synthetic materials being used. I don't object to AZEK, but I like AZEK better than I like PVC. And I think the buildings would benefit from corner boards, crown moldings over the windows, crown moldings around the envelope openings, and wider moldings around the windows. Also, the architect, you said you were licensed in the USA. Are you licensed in Connecticut?
I'm licensed in Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
I don't care about anything but Connecticut. Thank you.
Yes, I am.
You said USA. That sort of made
Up
me
and down
nervous.
that northeast corridor.
Yeah, they're not wide though. They look like the corner boards that you use in vinyl siding, the Serpentine corner boards.
No, so we're using a heavier corner board. It's about
Okay.
a 5.5, 6 inch.
Is it AZEK?
It's either AZEK or a PVC type board. There's a
Okay.
number of products. I do like AZEK as well. It could be AZEK, it's a brand name.
There's a number of companies that make corner moldings,
Yeah.
Trim Solutions, and there's a
Yes,
variety of
yes.
companies
Very
that
familiar
you're
with them.
probably more familiar with than
And
I
some
am.
of them, and the trim, there is trim around the windows at this scale. I'm not sure if you could see that or not. And there's also some headers over those windows.
Okay.
If they don't have the panels and trim. So we do trim it out.
So that's there, fine. That's my questions for now. I'll reserve my time. Any questions from anyone else on the commission? Andy?
Yeah, I'd like to ask about affordable housing and its place in this project. Adding over 100 new residential units with 0% of them being affordable would not be a good thing for us right now. The town is already way below the 10% benchmark, and I'd like to see at least 10% of this be affordable so that at the very least it does not set us back further.
At this time, there's no intention adding affordable to a project like this, and maybe Michael can speak about it more. The way you have to finance that and make it affordable actually makes it harder to actually develop the housing at times. So actually moving forward with just a market project, which would still provide needed housing in town, I don't want to say simplifies things, but it simplifies things. If this project was forced to add an affordable element to it, we might have to, I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to speak to that, yeah.
I can speak conceptually to one option. We work closely with the government, the Department of Housing on a variety of projects right now, and the governor recently rolled out a program called Build for CT, which will, it's aimed at identifying what I'll call the missing middle of affordability. So it's not the low income housing, it's 80% AMI, up to 100% AMI, depending on where your market rents fall. The process for that program, and it's a new program, they've literally just come out in the last quarter. The process for that program, as we understand it today, is we need to get our project approved as market rate, and then when we go to the program and say we can add 10%, we can add 20% housing of affordable housing according to their standards and the target rents of that program, we can then be eligible for the program because we're adding additional housing. I would just contrast that for you with an 830G style program where the affordability is baked into the approval process. That makes that project, the 830G project, less attractive to potentially ineligible for this other program. The Build for CT program then looks at how many affordable units we're adding to our project. It's not really about the town, it's about how many we're adding to our individual project. And they will provide very low interest financing to the developer on a number times the number of units we're adding. So that we're in favor of diversifying the price point of our units. We're in favor of adding an affordable component and providing that type of housing to the community. But the process for that, as we understand it today, is we need to go to the town with a market rate or non-restricted project and get it approved. And then we fold that in almost on the debt side, if you will, the financing side. It's not a land. There will be a restriction to it. There'll be there'll be a deed restriction to those units for 10 years.
So you'd still file the same 40-year restriction on the land record?
10-year restriction on those units.
Isn't it a 40-year restriction?
That's not this, I'm just talking about the program that I'm referencing.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
830G is 40 years.
Correct, that is correct. It's a totally different program.
Do they count the same way as 830G units count?
I would be hesitant to comment on that because I'm not that familiar with that side of the program. I just know this is like from the governor's office in an effort to get.
I've heard about that program.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from. So.
I would echo Andy's comment that with a project this large, and with us,
that
with us
program
hurting as bad
sounds
as we
great,
are.
and I'm not trying to give you guys a hard time, but with affordable housing, it's always not quite the right time or the right project. It's just never the right time. Mm-hmm. And I think that I hear a lot that the problem is economic, and I understand that, and I get it, it's money. But these are all rentals, right?
Correct.
So I would like to think about maybe an assurance that 10% of them could be affordable for a period of time. Doesn't necessarily need to be that long. And it could be between the town and the developer. Mm-hmm. But I think that there is, even if we can only get that for 5 years, that is something that we need desperately right now. Mm-hmm. So I understand that it's not easy, maybe it's not feasible in a traditional sense, but I think we need to start doing hard things when it comes to this, and I think I'm going to stick to that this time around with this development. I don't see any reason to make it easy to not do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I guess it's kind of cart before the horse, right? But I think the program I'm referencing would achieve what you just asked for.
That would be great.
But the problem I have, and I guess what we need to do a little more research on collectively, is
Maybe you can bring some additional information on that program back to us and make a determination if they are counters against affordable housing.
Correct.
Because that's what we're interested in.
Yep.
Minimum of 10%. I agree with what Andy's saying.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I just would like to clarify, when you said this new program, it's in addition to what was approved. So if you're looking for 120 some odd units and you went into this program, would you then increase the number
No,
of
I'm
units?
sorry.
No,
It
it's
would
just
be 100
incorporated.
If we were able to
within.
get 124 units approved as part of this project, we would
Okay.
then go to that program and apply for it.
Mhm.
They would want to see 20% of those units deemed affordable at the 80% or potentially 100% AMI level. And their goal really is to have a spread, I don't know exactly what it is, but $200, $300 below whatever our achievable market rates are in the community. So and that's where it goes back to what counts for the town versus what counts for them. They may be at a number higher than what would count for you, and I just can't speak to that. We'd be
None
happy
of
to
it's
do
easy to
this.
understand. 830G is not easy to understand.
Yep.
But if you can bring back details on that program and rethink what Andy has suggested to you, it's very important to the town.
If you can think of a way that the town could incentivize that for you as well.
Sure.
We're open to suggestions.
Yep.
This is a problem that we have not found a map to solving yet.
Yep, no, and we as I said, we're looking at this with other developers in other parts of the state as well, the same program. And I think that collective goal between the state, the developer, and the town is kind of everybody needs to be at the table to make it work. So be happy to continue those conversations with you guys and try to figure that out.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Conway?
What's the ratio between the apartments and the garage availability?
There's 65 garages.
So it's a 1 to 2?
Yes.
Approximately.
And as Roz pointed out, the corner ones are associated with the corner units. And so, is that 4? 6, so 6 out of the 65 are spoken for. So 59 would be up for grabs by the other
And they're
118.
single car?
Single bay.
Right.
And we find that across our portfolio, when we have the garage option for folks, about 50% is the ratio. Anything, if you overbuild the garages higher than that, you can have a lot of garages that aren't going used.
Okay. And does that stand true when you have, 3-bedroom units?
Yeah, the projects I'm referencing all have some component of 3 bedrooms.
Okay, great.
We only have, I think we're proposing 8 to 10 3-bedrooms. It's not a high percent.
Okay, thank you. And do you happen to know, so one of the things that you said about the approval process is that we currently have, I think you said 74% of our inventory is single-family in Stonington. I think that's what you said.
That's in the, that was in the, municipal fiscal impact.
Did you do the math as to what adding these 124 units would do to that?
I did not. It may be in the fiscal impact report, but I don't have it.
Clifton,
I
maybe
think.
you could do the math just for the future, next time. Thank you.
I have some questions, if I may.
Commissioner Philbrick,
Yes, thank you.
recognized for questions.
Are you all done? You all set, Lynn? Thank you. Since we are in the neighborhood development, whatever, the NDD, I think affordable housing, which really is a misnomer, I think we can all agree on, but it is supposed to be a neighborhood. So I think if there's any way you can see your way to having deed restrictions or some sort of workability with the state, the town would greatly appreciate it. And I'm sure you can figure out a way to make your pocketbook figure you'd be happy with it too. And since we're in concepts, have you considered solar anywhere are these flat roofs? Is there enough room for solar, or is it all filled up with your air handling equipment? Or
We hope to do solar for both the multifamily buildings and certainly the theater
Yep. Well, what about your parking spaces? Could you have canopies there?
Potential.
Great.
Yeah,
And you-
it's going to be, a green, aim to have green features throughout the construction, electric, we anticipate electric, heating and cooling systems, natural gas, no combustible.
That's my next question. Are you going to have no fossil fuels? Oh, beautiful. That was one of my lead questions.
I think it's going to highlight, at this stage, I can tell you what we're hoping to do, but
Right.
we really need to get through the master, the NDD designation, and then we can get into sort of what part we can get into the site plan.
Right.
But yes, those are all outlined in our goals.
And when was the stormwater system built? I've heard late 90s, and you keep saying it's 20 years old. So how old is the stormwater? 97. So things have been updated since then, we would think.
The modeling systems for stormwater management, Pond Pack, Bentley, have all evolved substantially since then, and the ability to assess capacities have evolved substantially. And frankly, we're still using old rainfall intensities and,
Understood.
24-hour storms that are being reviewed, and everybody knows that we just had a 4-inch rainstorm in Connecticut, which is the equivalent of almost a 100-year storm.
Well, I guess,
And we seem to have these recurring 3 or 4 times a year. So rainfall charts have changed. The combination of the effect of rainfall intensities evolving and changing, coupled with the modeling techniques advancing, I think this system needs to be reviewed for capacity.
well, so I was about to say is, when you get to the site plan phase, I guess, be aware that you'll be under the microscope.
That you made that clear.
Yeah.
That's it, thank you.
The town engineer would ask for that anyway. But since we're talking about what's forthcoming, we should be as candid as we possibly can be.
Right.
And I think an assessment of that at this point in the macro sense, you are decreasing impervious surfaces, albeit not by much. You are doing some work there. That will offset some of what will probably be an increase in required storage due to the fact that the new models assess things differently than the old ones did.
No, we appreciate all those comments and certainly going to take those into consideration.
Right.
And Jeff and his team will.
And as Andy said, it's certainly not to try to throw a monkey wrench in this. None of the groundwater hydraulics or hydrology or water quality issues or any of this. These are just issues we want you to address.
Yeah, thank you.
So just along that same vein, Chuck, we're requesting them to go back from the get-go, not just in addition to what they would be adding. So back to as if what they did for the original theater and shopping plaza 97, all the way back to the beginning, or just
No, it would.
adding?
If they have water quality data historically, that would be very helpful. I'd be very interested in seeing that. But in terms of the analysis of the capacity of the system, I think they really have to take a look at the new master plan, model the new master plan, put it into the old diffusers, and see, do they really have the storage capacity that's necessary using today's storms and today's flood routing programs to push it through there. And it may be that you need a couple more rows of diffusers. There should also be an assessment and an inspection of the diffusers. As Ben says, they're old. We hear they've been maintained very well, but these systems all have a life. And if best management practices have been employed, they're probably in great shape.
Yeah, they've been inspected annually, and we have all that data, and we were able to look at them, and they all look very...
All good stuff,
All good
Jeff.
stuff, so...
Great stuff.
Stop and Shop ones are 2007.
Yeah.
For the record, the Stop and Shop ones are 2007.
So we can run the model through it. It is very essentially the same HydroCAD model that we did when I came out of college. So, but what has changed is the rainfall intensity rates and those kind of things. Those have all increased in the past few years, so we will rerun those.
There are some interesting simulations that I've seen done using radar rainfall. And if you wanted to run some of those simulations, I can share some details with you. And they produce some more contemporary results for storms that we've been experiencing lately. It's a different distribution curve. I don't want to get into it now because it's just tech talk, but I'll share some details with you. Anyone else on the commission with questions? Bennett? Lynn, did you have anything else?
I have a couple.
Garrett?
So who can use the rec center? Does it have to be a member of the Y, or can anybody?
So there's two parts to the rec building. There's the section that'll be for the residents. It'll be the rental office,
It's about 4,000 square feet, rental office, package room, meals, delivery, a little bit of work from home space, and essentially a lounge, this communal kitchen, living room, if you will, for when folks want to have larger gatherings. And that'll open out to that pool, and that'll be private to the residential users. That's not part of the lot. The pickleball center, the fitness center, and the related rooms in that, the rest of that building, if you will all be part of a YMCA similar to the other YMCA's you have in the community. So
Can the residents use that then too, or no?
So our goal and hope with
Rika, maybe it's a
research
good time.
team is that we have a relationship where all of our residents participate in the Y and become part of that community. Maybe it's a good time for Maureen.
Hi, Maureen Fitzgerald, President and CEO of the Ocean Community YMCA. Thank you for listening to me tonight. We're excited to be a potential partner in this project because pickleball is the fastest growing sport among now youth, teens, older active adults. This could be a fantastic thing for the town of Stonington. There really isn't any indoor-outdoor courts in this entire area. They're either in or they're out, not the combination of both. So it would be a fabulous addition to the town. It would serve youth all the way up to older active adults. We have over 200 people in our Mystic branch playing pickleball. We just don't have the space to continue to grow it. And we also have some people playing in Westerly. With this type of facility, it would be open to Y members. We would also, if you just wanted a pickleball membership and not have full access to any three of our branches, we would have that option as well. It's also going to be an economic driver for the town because with this facility, we would be able to host regional, national tournaments, and that brings people from all over. Pickleball players will drive to find state-of-the-art courts and facilities, and this will be state-of-the-art. So for hotels, restaurants, retail, so hopefully you will consider moving the project forward, and hopefully the Y can work out the details with the developers and be part of the program. I see it a win-win for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question comes out of that presentation, I think more for the design team. In the mezzanine areas, did you say there's going to be spectator viewing seats? Has that been taken into consideration in the parking calculations?
Yeah, the total square footage of the building was utilized in the parking calculations, I'm pretty sure.
And the seating capacity and everything is?
Yeah, I don't want to overstate the seating capacity. It's essentially like a walkway that you walk.
Oh, okay. So it's a mezzanine where you stand and you don't sit in like theater seating or anything?
There
Okay.
could be some lounge seating here.
That's fine. That's fine. If that evolves and there is going to be spectators, we would expect obviously that would be part of the parking calculation. Any other questions?
Would the pickleball, if it's night pickleball outside, the lighting, so you just be aware that you're going to, for a lighting study?
There's no planned lights on the outdoor courts.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Not at this point.
Not at-
Potential maybe, but that would all be worked out, absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Cliff, where's the first NDD?
The first one is I want to say 36 duplex units down on Mechanic and Prospect Street. It was approved in, I want to say 2006. I don't remember. I sent Carlene the information earlier, so maybe she can answer what I sent her.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Yes,
With the YMCA, with the pickleball courts, is it, obviously it's a sort of a new thing that's come up. Would there be plans to, if say in 10, 20 years or something, that pickleball started to fade down, the redesign of, adding volleyball courts or tennis courts or something like that? Or I guess it's a pretty open, adaptive area. Would that be
Yes.
kind of the plan with that?
Absolutely. And really, pickleball is here and growing nationally. 5 years ago, it was the older active crowd, 70 and above. Now we're seeing it from 8 years and older. So I think it's really going to be around for a long time. But yes, with the height of the ceiling, gymnastics, volleyball, all of that could be adapted.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One quick last one, and I'm just curious, I'm sure you guys have already got an answer and expectations for this, but with the HI 60 zone just directly to the south, do you see any of the potential uses for that zone adversely impacting the marketability of this project? I mean, I know you've got a McDonald's and a Stop and Shop right there. I can't imagine what else in HI 60 would change the character of the surroundings that much, but.
We actually feel that this development, if it goes forward, is really a catalyst for developing the stretch of HI 60 along Route 2, like
you think
Michael, without saying too much, owners have been speaking to each other about this. And, if this can go forward, then obviously, actually, the marketability of that property would go up. There may even be people who want to add on to this district, to join this district in the future, both north and south, and really make this a gateway and more of a neighborhood, add more housing, add more mixed uses as you go north and south. A hotel, if there's people coming to play pickleball or just people coming in general, we really feel it has the potential to anchor, a very vibrant stretch of Route 2. So, I mean, there's no guarantees, but someone has to start the process. And so that's what, when Michael looked at this and Jeremy, and they looked at it and see what's possible, that's really a big potential bonus here.
Thank you. Staff report?
I'll keep mine short just for the sake of the public comment. All of the responses that were provided by the various boards and commissions, as John alluded to earlier, are very simple and basically pushing off the significance or the variety of comments or concerns until the site plan stage, which would be typical for a zone change application. Regarding your comments on the water quality and the aquifer, et cetera, the town engineer did make a note of that, and just his only comment was to remind the applicant that a drainage report, including water quality calculations, BMPs, et cetera, would be required at the site plan stage. So he's already made a note of that, and I think the applicant's well aware of the requirements needed for the groundwater protection permit. The ADRB, as mentioned, did review this project, as well as the police commission. Both favorably responded and approved without comment or stipulation. There were minor architectural comments made by the ADRB, and those will be addressed as the project becomes more refined. From a staff perspective, I personally didn't have any comments. I thought the application met all the requirements needed for the NDD. And then just looking forward, to answer your question, Lynn, I did some back of napkin math. The impact of this development on reducing the number of single-family units would be less than a single percentage point. There's about 6,100 single-family dwellings across the town out of a total of about 9,000 units, or 8,400 occupied, 9,000 total. So less than a percentage point really doesn't do much. And then I will answer, or I'll try to answer Andy's comment regarding the affordability. You mentioned the 10% level. Just mathematically speaking, any project that creates under 50% affordable housing will never reach that 10% number as required by the state. I think we've discussed this during 830G applications. The 10% number is a figurative number set by the state that's inherently unachievable unless you create 51% and up affordable housing units. So just using that as a metric is not something necessarily worth noting, but it is a good point. And I did make a note to follow up with Jeremy and the applicant regarding how, as the town, how we'd go about creating some agreements or incentives regarding affordability for the project as it moves on to next stages. So I did make a note to do that later.
Thank you, Clifton. If there are no other comments from the commission, we'll move to the audience. We have two parties who have signed up to speak, and of course the applicant will have an opportunity for a rebuttal, and as will these players after the applicant has spoken again. So the first person on the speakers list is Carlene. You just come forward and state your name and address, Carlene, for the record. I know we all know you very well, but it helps us with the minutes. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, commission members. My name is Carlene Donarumo, and I live in Pawcatuck. And I have been following zoning in this town for a very, 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 very long time. And before I make my comments, I would like to make 3 comments about some of the testimony given tonight by their team. The first has to do with their traffic engineer. He testified that there is a stoplight at the entrance to Stop and Shop. That is incorrect. There is no stoplight there. And if his analysis is based on that, then in my opinion, his traffic report is incorrect. Number 2, I am flummoxed and completely flabbergasted at how far this project has gotten before you have even awarded them a zone change to an MDD. I did not see any of this information in the planner's report or anywhere on the internet unless I'm missing something. I am just beyond words. And 3, the town is very up on pickleball courts. We had 2 brand new pickleball courts already behind Stonington High School, adjacent to the new tennis courts. So we are aware of the trend, but I also agree that maybe in 10 or 15 years, it may be gone. Things evolve. And now on to my comments. As I stated, my name is Carlene Donarumo, and I come here tonight again as a very long-time follower of zoning in our town. Some of you are brand new or very new members of our Planning and Zoning Commission, and I would venture to say to you that all of you were not here on the commission and maybe not even residents of our town in November of 2005 when the NDD regulations were adopted under the Director of Planning at the time, Jason Vincent. So before you make any decisions on this application, I want to encourage you to do two things if you haven't already done it. One, carefully read and review the Neighborhood Development District regulations, mistakenly referred to as the Neighborhood Design District in the staff report. I am unaware if any hard copies of our new zoning regulations are available, but they can be accessed by going to the town's website, clicking on the Planning and Zoning Department, then clicking on Land Use Regulations. The NDD regulations are in section 10.3, and I'm really confused as how this applicant can come before you at this time with brand-new regulations in effect and say they came under the old regulations. I just can't understand that. The NDD regulations are now in section 10.3. And yes, I would agree, they are almost exactly the same which were in the old regulations, but I believe they need to be under the new regulations at this point in time. While you are in the Land Use Regulations tab, you can also access the Zoning Map Atlas. And on page 10, you will find the Pawcatuck Village Center depicted. It is also referred to as the Pawcatuck Village Core. And if you haven't already found it, this is what it looks like when you get to page 10 of the atlas. Study it carefully, because it's going to be very, very important in your decision. When you read through all of our zoning regulations, and I hope you have done that, you will readily see that in each of our zones, there has been a consistent and a conscious effort by previous commissions to protect neighborhoods and their character. If you search the word neighborhoods, it appears 55 times in our regulations. The Neighborhood Development District regulations clearly states in more than one place within that regulation that the regulation applies to village cores. The planner's report on page 1 even quotes from the NDD regulations that the purpose of this zone is for village cores. So when you analyze the Pawcatuck Village map, which I just showed you, you will determine that the Pawcatuck Village ends just past Russell Avenue and in close proximity to the entrance to the bypass to cross into the Pawcatuck River into westerly Rhode Island. The subject property is much farther up Route 2 and is also just located south of the North Stonington border. In other words, the Readco property site is nowhere near the Pawcatuck Village core, let alone being in it. By now, it should be evident to you that this application does not apply or comply with the NDD regulations. And therein lies one of my reasons that this application should be denied. What residential properties are there, is this proposal supposed to protect? And that was what this purpose of this regulation is. What currently exists on the other parcels in the immediate vicinity? Well, let's have a look. Across Route 49, also known as Voluntown Road, lies several commercial businesses. Other Readco developments in this area include, as mentioned this evening, a McDonald's, a bank, a Stop and Shop supermarket, and a Yale New Haven medical facility. These are not residential, but commercial entities which rightly exist in the HI 60 zone. The HI 60 regulations list 48 acceptable other uses that could have been and should have been pursued for this parcel instead of housing. Even the developer, in a statement quoted in a November 11th newspaper article written by Joe Wojcik that appeared in the London Day, admits that the site is not adjacent to any existing residential development, which is required by the NDD regulations to be protected and its character preserved. Again, this proposal fails to meet the intent of the NDD regulations and my reason number 2 for denial. In the article announcing Readco's intention to build 4 additional buildings along Route 2 with 124 apartments at market rate, misses the real crux of a dilemma that our town is in, and that is that we do not meet the state mandate that 10% of our housing stock is deemed affordable. While I did not have a chance to go to the town hall to view the record so far, and again, I'm flabbergasted as to what was presented tonight, it seems that, and they have also testified, that there is no affordable housing proposed at this time. The need here is affordable housing, not market rate housing, and not multifamily housing as stated by the developer again in the previous mentioned newspaper article. Instead of being a tax benefit for the town, as the developer has declared, I feel this non-compliant application will be a burden on our town with more children and more services needed. It is my understanding that when more and more non-affordable units are built in our town, it affects our goal of trying to comply with the state mandate of 10% and that our rate would go down. To me, that is not acceptable and not in the best interests of our town. Because the housing units are not proposed to be affordable, I cannot support this application, and thereby, this is my 3rd reason for asking you to deny this application. In conclusion, it is my humble opinion that the applicant is trying to maximize his profits through the misuse of the NDD regulations. As stated earlier, there are many more avenues that he could pursue that would be in harmony with the HI regulations and still add to our tax base without disrupting the character of the existing commercial area. I sincerely hope you will preserve the integrity of our regulations and not set a very bad precedent for future misuse of the NDD regulations. And it sort of sounds like that's already starting to happen behind the scenes. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to give you my comments for you to think about before you vote on this application.
Thank you, Carleen.
You're welcome.
The next person who's signed up to speak this evening is Deborah Downey.
Hello, my name is Deborah Downey. I live on Back Acres Way in Stonington. I'm speaking tonight as a resident and not a selectman. But I did want to say I am a hydrogeologist and licensed environmental professional. I'm somewhat familiar with the site because I was on the Wetlands Commission when one of the couple of Readco projects went through. First, I just want to echo Chairman Sheehan's comments. I had a long list of comments, and he made a lot of them, so this is going to be fairly short. But one thing we are looking at as a town is strengthening our aquifer protection regs and our groundwater protection overlay regs. So I do appreciate that the developer is looking to decrease the impervious area that exists, but I would ask that they also, and you consider in redeveloping this site, looking at low-impact stormwater management and treatment options. Because while the vortecnic systems are fine for the suspended sediments, as Chairman Sheehan mentioned, they really don't help remove the metals, the sodium, the chloride, the petroleum, and other things in this sensitive area. Consider bioretention, swales, rain gardens, and other options. And also, as you mentioned, I would urge you to design for expected future storms, not the current mandated volumes. I mean, look what we saw the other day. And also, please consider more trees to help with the heat stress that we're expected. And we've been trying very hard to increase the number of trees in town, especially in Pawcatuck. I would also want to see something with regard to post-construction stormwater management, with cleaning inspections to make sure the system continues to work. Perhaps this site would have a manager, but we've recently had issues across town where there have been systems that are supposedly owned and maintained by homeowners associations, and they're not being maintained, and we're seeing some failures. Finally, I just wanted to mention that if the new general permit does not include water quality testing, I have projects in other towns that the towns themselves require annual or biannual water quality testing at these projects. So that's it. Thank you.
We are considering that as a part of the sustainability review of our regulations as well.
Yes, I mean, I have several projects that were out there testing stormwater at similar facilities or malls or large shopping centers.
I think we should get some testing results, whether it's required by DEEP or not.
Exactly. I think that makes sense, especially given where this project's located.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Bye.
Anyone who has not signed up that wishes to speak? Hearing none, does the applicant desire rebuttal time?
Yes.
Attorney Casey?
Maybe I'll start with a question. Is it based on the conversation and the requests, are you anticipating continuing the hearing? As we go forward with this, as I said, we're at a master plan level, and I feel we provided significant information to cover what you need to consider as to whether a master plan should be approved, the uses, the general location, things like that. In terms
I'd like
of,
to see a framework for the aquifer protection also in the master plan.
Okay.
I think that's subject to the discretion of the commission, not the chair, but that'll be part of the discussion that I think we need to have as a commission. And under those circumstances, it would be continued and to give you an opportunity to come back to us with additional information.
Right.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, I would also think if you were going to do it, that you would come back with an affordable housing, a much more concrete approach to incorporating affordable housing as part of this project. As a part of the master plan, yes.
Yeah, as Jeremy mentioned, I mean, I think we can investigate, but to a certain extent, we can only go so far in terms of we won't know, well, we will understand maybe what programs are available, and maybe commit to applying for programs or working with the town to make the project affordable, or make the financing work out so that we can provide affordable housing. We understand the importance of that. But there is a certain limit at the end of the day about what information that is even available, what we'll be able to know in a month from now. Actually, in 2 weeks from now, I guess we'll have to figure out the timing of this, given that we have to submit everything 2 weeks before the next.
Just introduced this to you. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
I don't expect that you're gonna have a response this evening, which is
No.
another reason why additional time might benefit, for you to look further and.
It sounds like additional time we're going to need to continue the hearing. I don't see a way around that. I guess I would just ask to make sure we have an understanding of what the commission is looking for so that we can provide the information and try to keep moving this along.
I think that it was clear that
Yeah.
we would like to see 10% of these units meet the affordable criteria that's expressed under 830G. If there's another program that allows them to be counted, we want to be fair. We want to be fair with you. We always are.
Yeah.
So come back with a thoughtful answer.
Understood.
And we'll give it some thought.
Understood. Then in response, and I think in terms of
I wanted to make a point that there's nothing in our existing regulations that has that as a requirement. So the applicant for any application is not required to do that. It would be a strategy going above and beyond. I just want to make that a point that's clear.
We understand that
We have,
we're
we have
reaching.
discretion in granting an NDD, though.
In the master plan, we do.
Right.
Correct.
So we can ask for this.
making it a point of clarification.
We understand that there is no criteria, but we did do an affordable housing plan. And the affordable housing plan does have some goals, and this commission was a part of it. And I think we would be remiss if we sat here and did not have this discussion. So it's a very good point to bring up on the part of several commissioners. I certainly support it. There's been expressed concern from one member of the public, and I know that there is additional concern out there. So we ask you to consider this and to come back with a thoughtful answer.
And the redesignation of a zone is one of the few instances where we do have the discretion to ask for things.
Understood.
Yeah.
And this one in particular, generally it's a thumbs up, thumbs down type situation, but this one's a little different. And I think it's been made clear, the idea of making part of these units affordable has been considered. But we felt at this point it wasn't something that needed to be presented in terms of the master plan. Having heard now from the commission, we can try to, solidify the thoughts and the ideas that went into that in a further submission going forward.
I don't often disagree with you, Attorney Casey, but I would disagree. I think this is the time that we should be talking about it.
Okay.
And this is the time where we should be making plans for just that. Because this is the time where you're developing budgets, you're developing financing. It would be very unfair of us to roll this hand grenade out at you at a later stage. It may be very unfair for us to do it now, but we're doing it anyway.
Understood.
And I think this is the fairest time to do it. We understand that is a big ask, and we ask you to give it some reasonable thought.
And I guess my point was, we've given it thought, we just didn't present it as part of the application. And what we'll need to do is give it a little more thought and reduce it to writing and somehow.
That is sincerely and earnestly appreciated, honestly.
I think I said in terms of Ms. Downey's questions, I think we already touched on that. We can look into stormwater management questions as part of the end as part of the master
Aquifer
plan.
protection also.
Yeah, well, yeah, the whole groundwater.
Again, to build a framework, and I understand that without knowing the exact sizes of the buildings and where all the curb lines are going, that finite modeling is not possible, but modeling on a macro scale is. And putting rain gardens and bioremediation swales and other things that have been mentioned, build them into this project, we can build a framework for that, and that's what we're asking that you do, so that, again, out of fairness, we don't impose those standards later on in the project and make the rest of the project very difficult for you.
Understood, yep. As I said, we just want to make sure that we come back with the information that you're searching for at the appropriate level. So I think those are the two big issues that we'll come back with. In terms of just one of the comments, one of the members of the public asked you to deny this on the grounds that this property wasn't even eligible because it wasn't in a village. Your regulations are very specific about district eligibility. It's in section 7.21.3 C. And just to reiterate, the reason we are under the old regulations for this application, and really it's just a matter of numbering, is because on the day we submitted the application, the new regulations weren't in effect yet. We submitted, so I think the commission understands that, but I hope everyone in the room understands it as well.
We do.
Yes, okay. So under that regulation, which carries forward into your new regulations, district eligibility has three characteristics. One, located in one of the following zoning districts, and that includes the HI 60. We are in the HI 60. Two, on a parcel of land 150,000 square feet or more, we meet that characteristic. And three, ability to connect to public water supply and municipal sanitary sewer. So those are the three eligibility requirements. We meet all three of those. And so we don't think that it's appropriate just to say that you can't put an NDD on this property. It's just not the case. Your regulations specifically allow it on this property. If it only was supposed to occur inside the villages, that's how the regulations would have been written, but it's not. So we think this is as appropriate a place. And in terms of, there's no requirement that it be connected to a residential district. Your regulations actually require protecting adjoining residential uses. And our point is that we will protect those uses, and that the fact that there are none means it's easier to protect them. So we are creating new residential uses, or proposing to, but that is specifically allowed in the regulation. So I think this commission understands that, but I wanted to reemphasize that creating new residential uses in an NDD is completely appropriate and encouraged. As it says, the whole point is to promote diversified housing opportunities, and we understand the need for affordable rental opportunities, but I also think there's a need, as we mentioned, just rental opportunities, not single-family houses that cost $300,000, $400,000, but rental units that will be available to regular folk. So with that, I don't have any other further responses.
What about the traffic light issue? Are you going to address the traffic light issue?
I'll address that.
Okay.
No, I apologize. I believe she's correct. I simply misspoke earlier. There isn't a traffic light on the Stop and Stop side. The report that we submitted, I just reviewed it again. It didn't mention a traffic light there. That wasn't analyzed. I was misspoken by me, so I apologize by that. There's a traffic signal by the McDonald's. There's not one by the Stop and Shop. There's still good level of service over there.
While you are on your feet, when individual applications, assuming this moves forward, when individual applications are presented for different components of the master planned elements, we do like to see a queuing analysis, an active queuing analysis, before and after.
Sure.
So that speaks volumes in terms, to me anyway, of level of service, where you get an actual visual on a screen of the queuing that took place in advance and the queuing that takes place afterwards. So there are a number of models that you can use to do that, and you can pick the model that works best for you, but we will want to see that.
That is, yep, that's what we do, and we also, when we do our data collection, we collect video at the
Right.
intersections, so we can monitor real time.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Casey.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have nothing further at this point.
Does anyone who spoke against, or anyone who spoke against this application wish any rebuttal time? Okay.
Yeah, Chuck, just another quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just in terms of process, obviously, Attorney Casey, you come with us with as much information as you can. There's obviously questions that we'll have. I think, with the town engineer, he understands the problems, makes a reasonable assumption that these will be addressed later, and that things will they'll go across those. I guess my question is, should we leave those up to the applicant for, if we wanted a 10% housing, or we wanted to make sure that what they have for stormwater management, if what they have now is fine, or we just want to make it up to recent code, is that something that we should demand now before going down to the next process, or just understand that that needs to be done in terms of the next, because I think both applicant and the commission are under the same thing, that both parties wouldn't let it happen unless it met those criteria. So I guess it's do we stop this now, kick the can down the road, have another meeting to then have that
I think it's
same
an interesting
question?
point. I think it's an interesting point that you make. I think what we're trying to do is, within the master plan, build a framework and create standards for groundwater protection, create standards for stormwater management that the individual master plan components will have to live up to. You're not going to be able to design it in a finite way now. He's not going to be able to come back and say, we need 2 more rows of diffusers in the middle of the parking lot and a bigger detention basin over here. That can't be decided now. But we can approach this from the standpoint of these are the types of elements, these are the types of processes, these are the types of protection that we're looking for, and that have to be designed into each master plan component. So I think what we're trying to do is build a stronger framework so that if this is to be approved, there is a much more finite master plan in place than what has been proposed tonight.
But could we also just put that into stipulations of that you're, running the numbers through the current weather systems and the current that are
No,
higher than
I don't
that?
think so. I think it's part of the submittal from the applicant. And then that's all part of, if the commission decides to approve it, it becomes part of the submission, because they're going to come back with an amended submission. And when you approve it, it's incorporated into the submission if you decide to approve it. It could be done also as a condition, but it's so iffy we don't have enough information to even define. I think we're asking them to bring more information back so that we can put reasonable stipulations on it. That's, I guess, what we're trying to do.
Okay. Yeah,
But it's a good question.
Because I guess,
I'm glad you brought it up.
none of this is written in stone. If the color of the building changes or something.
It's still a master plan.
Right.
It isn't a design, but we had a very articulate hydrogeologist talk to us tonight about, hydrogeologic concerns. And there should be some framework in the master plan that describes how you protect groundwater.
Okay.
And those are the types of things we're looking for. And it'll be a better master plan, and each site plan that we approve under it, if we approve the zone change. I heard earlier that we're inclined to approve this. I don't think anybody's inclined to do anything until they've fully considered it. I don't think anybody should make any assumptions in the audience that anything is approved or disapproved until we hear all the evidence and we fully consider it. So, and then we will render a fair decision.
Yeah, I guess it's just we set a bar at some level and they agree to meet it?
That's
Or-
correct.
Or do we, which I think
Well,
is what we're
standards,
doing.
certain standards and,
Right.
and principles that are built into the master plan that speak to hydrogeologic protection, that speak to stormwater management, so that there's a framework in the master plan for stormwater management. So there's a framework for a groundwater protection. And these are very valid concerns in an aquifer protection zone.
Yeah. And so just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, we didn't go through the process. You have your groundwater protection overlay zone requirements. We didn't get into the nuts and bolts of those yet. So you would have us look to those as the standard to meet, or the DEP stormwater regs as a standard to meet in terms of putting that in the master plan.
I think that what you want to come back with, if you can, is a macro analysis. You have the details of the stormwater system that's in there. Your civil engineer said that he has HydroCAD, which is a very easy system to run. And I think you could model that system in HydroCAD and make an easy determination if you need to modify it or if it's adequate. And that's the type of feedback on HydroCAD. I think on stormwater management that we're looking for. It's a 20-some-odd-year-old system, or almost 30 years old in some cases. Its adequacy in terms of its maintenance. You said it's been inspected. Talk a little bit more about that, because it is a 25, 30-year-old system. In terms of groundwater protection, there's a variety of ways that you can look at protecting the groundwater. And I think it's more philosophical that you're going to look at groundwater bioremediation swales. You're going to look at trees. You're going to look at maybe even trying to decrease the impervious surfaces even more and increase the, or decrease the impervious surfaces and increase, grassed areas more if you possibly can. But there's a variety of factors that you can build into this project, rain gardens and other approaches that will soften the effect on groundwater.
Understood. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had a way to look at this, and I think we have a good understanding based on that. Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. So I guess we're continuing this public hearing until the next meeting?
Make a motion to continue the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made to continue the public hearing. Does the next meeting give you enough time? Clifton, do we have enough time to?
No.
Oh, yes, we do.
So the next meeting is January 2nd. I don't believe with the holiday period, there's going to be enough time for the applicant to do that
So we
work.
may need an extension.
So there will be,
Yes,
it has to be closed by January 23rd, so it could be on the January 16th meeting without an extension, or it could be extended. So there's time potentially in the new year to do it. I'll work with the applicant to find the proper time for that.
Okay.
Just to confirm, if we get continued to the 16th, do we need to submit?
No.
2 weeks ahead?
No. Or you'll still need to submit 2 weeks ahead.
That's the second.
No, five days. For anything that needs to be in the public record. For anything that needs to be reviewed by staff, obviously, before.
I just want to make sure if we go to the 16th, we don't get then tripped up with the 2 week rule.
Another major public hearing on that.
Just procedurally, any of the items that are being requested by the commission, do you anticipate those needing to be reviewed by town staff?
I would think
because
any hydrogeologic report would be, and the stormwater management report would be as well.
Okay, because I'm just, again, thinking out loud that the lack of specificity on that document is not going to be something that the town engineer is going to review. So I'm trying to understand how specific this document needs to be when the site plan itself isn't constructed.
Well, the town engineer has to review stormwater modeling, and I would think the town engineer would be the appropriate guide to review aquifer protection also.
But aren't we looking for parameters and procedures more than numbers?
Some of it's policy, some of
Yeah.
it, some of it is numbers, but the macro stormwater analysis the town engineer would want to look at.
Okay.
But it's not a difficult thing to review.
Oh, but there's Christmas and New Year's between now and the second.
I understand that.
I'll work with the applicant to find the time, and if it needs to be extended, it'll be extended. How about that?
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say,
fair.
that, a LID and biotreatment strategy can be done.
That's a good word, strategy.
Very, and I don't know that it needs to be reviewed by the engineer. Now, if we're going to do, build a model of the existing stuff that we planned on doing as part of our site plan application, we can't have that by the second. I've got too many other commitments and holidays.
So do we want to seek an extension and move the application out?
Yeah, I'll work with the applicant to get that language and find a time if necessary for them.
Yeah, I think if we go to the 16th now and then talk with Clifton, and if we need more time.
Yep, ask for it then.
I guess one point I want to make is, to the extent we're asking to model for the site, you're asking us to model based on a certain number of buildings with certain roof area, certain impervious, parking area, impervious, and we don't know that you're going to give that to us. So it's a lot of work.
Well, you've got it, your master plan is an AutoCAD. The breakout of those areas and the modeling of it it's a couple-hour task.
No, it's much more, building that model is not a couple-hour task.
Is the site plan in AutoCAD?
The site plan is, yeah, but the building of that model in
You indicated,
HydroCAD is
do you have a survey of the site with all the stormwater management system on it? Do you have an A2 survey of the site?
We do, but that has to be input, every part of the pipe
But
network
in
has to be input.
HydroCAD, you enter the model numbers of the diffuser units, the elevations of the diffuser units, and all the components that are contributory to each unit.
What's your hourly rate?
Okay, let's try to do this. I don't see it as such an earth-shattering task, and I do it all the time. So, maybe my familiarity with it is I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. And I think it can be done, and we can have it in time for the town engineer to look at the output before the 16th. But if we can't, we'll get an extension and we'll move this application out.
Sorry, just to put a meeting by the 16th or by the 2nd?
Let's talk tomorrow, because the scheduling of this and the requirements necessary are way out of scope, so I just want to debrief. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Thank you, Attorney Casey. Okay, so we had a motion on the floor to continue the application.
I just wanted to ask if this motion, is the public comment section of the public hearing going to be opened again?
Always,
Great.
always. Yeah, public is allowed.
Close the public comment section and then make a decision.
I don't think you can do that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a good question. We have had public hearings in one case where I think they didn't allow anybody to speak in the continued public hearing, and it did create quite a ruckus. That will not happen under this chair. It didn't happen under you either, that previous case. So we have a motion on the floor to continue the application, date to be determined between the planner and the applicant. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Conway.
You have to put it on the record, sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
I think you have to put it on the record. Tonight.
So 16th? Okay. Then we have to amend the motion.
So I amend the motion to continue this hearing until January 16th meeting.
Mr. Conway, are you okay with that? Okay. Motion made and seconded to continue the application to the 16th. Thank you, Attorney Casey. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
There being no further business to come before the commission this evening,
Make a motion to adjourn the hearing.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.